You've probably heard about the Great Filter. It's that hypothetical barrier to advancing, maybe even a wall in space-time preventing humanity from becoming like the Borg and taking over the galaxy. This is our channel, and today we're answering the extraordinary question. The challenges we face do share some commonalities, which suggests that we may be dealing with a single problem manifesting in lots of different ways. So let's see if we can put our finger on it. Is the Great Filter actually right in front of us? Have you ever noticed how many existential threats we're facing right now? They're part of our instinct to survive and reproduce. But we also aspire to live in harmony with the rest of life on Earth, and that means accepting the natural order of things. On the one hand, clinging to life in the face of death is a powerful motivator. Think of how many incredible works of art and science and music were inspired by the desire to overcome the inevitability of death. But it's also responsible for some of the worst things humanity has ever done. For example, genocide. Species come and go. Eventually, our time will come too. The question is, what do we do about that? Do we cling to life in the face of death, or do we accept death in the hope of preserving life? We see ourselves as separate from nature, as superior to the rest of life on Earth. That's what sustainability is all about. It's about recognizing that we're part of nature and that we need to live in accordance with its laws. It's also about recognizing that we're superior to other animals and that we have the responsibility to use our intelligence to protect the natural world. By paying attention to the present moment, we can learn to appreciate the beauty of life without trying to control it. We can learn to accept death as a natural part of the cycle of life. And in doing so, we can free ourselves from the fear of death that drives so much of our worst behavior. It's the illusion of separation that prevents us from living in harmony with the rest of life on Earth. Every time we choose to recycle, we're choosing to see ourselves as part of the natural world. Every time we choose to eat locally grown food, we're choosing to reduce our impact on the planet. They're driven by people who have broken through the Great Filter and started living more sustainably. Of course, these changes aren't enough. We need more people to make more changes if we're going to turn this around. But the important thing to remember is that these changes are happening. Every time we choose to walk or bike instead of driving, we're choosing to live more simply. So the Great Filter might be right in front of us, but it's not insurmountable. It's just a matter of changing the way we see ourselves. When we do that, we can start to see the way forward. When we break through that illusion, we can start to live more sustainable lives that take into account the needs of both people and planet. People are becoming more aware of the challenges we face, and they're responding in kind. We're developing new technologies that harness the power of the sun and wind. We're finding new ways to grow food that don't require massive amounts of water or fertilizer. We're even learning how to live in buildings that don't require air conditioning. But that's only half the story. We're both separate and superior, but also part of and inferior to nature. It's the wall we've built around ourselves that makes us think we separate from everything else. When we break down that wall and realize that we're part of something bigger than ourselves, then we can start to heal the planet and ourselves along with it. We can learn to recognize the interconnectedness of all life and the importance of preserving biodiversity. And in doing so, we can start to heal the wounds we've inflicted on the planet. All we have to do is get out of our own way. So what do you think? Is the Great Filter right in front of us? Let us know in the comments below. We're like a bridge between the physical world and the universe of ideas. They've driven our greatest triumphs and our worst failures. And until we find a way to resolve the contradiction between them, we'll continue to face the possibility of self-destruction. But we're not just animals. We're also conscious beings with the ability to reflect on our own nature and ponder why we do what we do. And what we find when we do that is that our animal instincts often conflict with our higher aspirations. But on the other hand, accepting death in the hope of preserving life is also a powerful motivator. We can learn to be content with what we have, and in doing so, reduce our impact on the planet. After all, without the knowledge that our time is limited, we would not have developed the amazing technology that has allowed us to extend human life in the first place. But it's also led to some pretty terrible ideas. Clinging to life and accepting death aren't mutually exclusive. In fact, they're complementary. To cling to life isn't necessarily to reject death, and to accept death isn't necessarily to reject life. Some people take the idea of death so seriously that they are willing to die rather than accept the natural order of things. That's the origin of martyrdom. Climate change, nuclear war, pandemics, disloyal AI, resource depletion, social collapse. We seem to be living in a kind of valley of the end where anything could happen. We can aspire to be better than our base instincts while still acknowledging their power. In fact, that's what makes us human. It's the tension between our animal nature and our higher aspirations that gives life its meaning. But what if it's not out there somewhere? What if the great filter is right here on Earth, right now? And if so, are we on the right side of it or the wrong side? But when you step back and look at it as a whole, there does seem to be some kind of pattern. If this is something we created, then the logical place to start looking for a solution is in ourselves. After all, every human invention has a creator, and every challenge posed by an invention has a corresponding opportunity for its inventor to correct the problem. The climate crisis is caused by the burning of fossil fuels. But it's also an opportunity for us to develop new technologies that do uncause a climate crisis. Nuclear war is made possible by nuclear weapons, but developing ways to stop nuclear weapons is an opportunity for us to make sure there is no nuclear war. So when we zoom in on the human race, what do we find? Well, we find ourselves. We find billions of people with needs and wants and desires and fears. And this seems to be the root of the matter. Our desires drive us to accomplish great things, but they also cause us to do terrible things. So the question becomes, what do we do about that? From a purely biological perspective, our desires are encoded in our genes. We desire to preserve our own species because it's in our genes. This is the central conflict of humanity, and it's one we've been grappling with since we first became self-aware. Some people want to preserve life so badly that they're willing to extinguish the lives of others. Both of these forces have shaped humanity into what it is today. So how do we choose between these two impulses? Well, the great thing about being human is that we don't have to choose. And the more we reflect on this tension, the more we realize that it's not really a contradiction at all. When we understand this, we realize that the root of the problem isn't in ourselves, it's in how we perceive ourselves. And the trick to living on this planet is to acknowledge both sides of our nature, to embrace both our animal instincts and our higher aspirations. So the great filter isn't inside us, it's outside us, separating us from the rest of nature. But what does that look like in practice? How do we reconcile our animal instincts with our higher aspirations? One way is through mindfulness. Another way is through compassion. By extending our empathy and understanding to all living beings, we can learn to see ourselves in a new light. A third way is through gratitude. By appreciating all the good things in our lives, we can learn to find joy in the present moment without constantly seeking more. So the great filter isn't something we need to overcome, something we need to see through. Of course, this is easier said than done. But the good news is that we're already doing it. These may seem like small choices, but they add up to real change. And that change is happening all around us. All of these innovations are driven by people who have chosen to see themselves in a new light. People are choosing to live differently, and in doing so, they're creating a better future for themselves and for the planet. We're already on the right side of the great filter. And don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this one. Thanks for watching.